Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. It's brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Jonathan Casillas with you, taking your phone calls at 201-939-4513. All right, JC, want to go through a few things with you on the open before we get to the phone calls. You always go back and you watch the game every week. Did you have a chance to go back and watch the Raider game?
Yeah.
Overall thoughts? Just like high-end things that that maybe you took away that either surprised you or you think are significant moving forward.
From what I gathered from like the season leading up to this game, the defense, runs this team. The team has its success because of the defense and how the defense performs, and because the defense had a slow start, allowed the Raiders to run the ball basically whenever they wanted, especially early on in the game. Allow them to do more things with their young quarterback than the Giants was able to do offensively, and the Giants had a slow start. And it just further secured that thought of if the Giants don't have dominant games on defense, the games are not competitive. And we've seen that from the beginning of the season with the 40-0 loss to the second half of the Cardinals game where the defense played lights out and offense was on point. If the defense doesn't play well for the rest of the season, it's going to be really bad. The offense just hasn't really figured it out quite yet. And then, of course, a lot that has to do with injuries, and now the biggest injury of the season with Daniel Jones going down for the rest of the year. It's very hard for them to find their identity, to play well in any specific game for longer than 2 quarters. The excuses and reasons are all there, but with all that being said, the Giants have to find ways to perform and execute. Whether, it's, that third down before halftime versus the Bills, the 4th and 1s that happened against the Jets.
You're going to have to make all those big plays now.
Yeah,
you have to.
You have to figure out ways to become situationally better. And there's opportunities this week while watching Dallas, I mean, who's their linebacker? Like middle linebacker.
They play a lot of safeties, JC. They don't play a lot of linebackers.
So there's a recipe to beating the Dallas Cowboys, which I didn't think it was going to be possible given how good Dallas has been playing. I haven't really watched them. Now I watched them. I'm like, offensively, yes, I think they're good. They're very talented. They're not that good in the red zone offensively.
No, they're not good at all. And they aren't running the ball that well either.
And they aren't running the ball.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way, I think those two are connected too, by the way.
And I think their weakness on defense is the middle of the defense. And if you go at them, in the middle with those, like they got safeties playing linebackers. Like
literally they have safeties playing linebackers.
Van Der Esch is out. I like Bell. I like 33. I like those players, but not at middle linebacker. Not. The Giants have an opportunity. If the Giants run the ball 50 times this game, they will give themselves a chance. And I'm just being serious.
The problem is that they have to be close enough to maintain that game.
They have to play well defensively.
Correct.
That's how I started this whole conversation.
No, I'm totally with you, 100%.
If the Giants can slow this offense down, and the Giants can run the ball on Dallas. Passing the ball against Dallas, it's a very difficult task for any team to do.
Yes.
I think the only team that had real efficiency passing the ball was San Fran.
I was surprised, actually, how well Dallas stopped the run against Philly last week.
Yeah, they did a good job.
They did
a good job. Yeah. But what Philadelphia do, I feel like they attack edges a lot. And that's the strength of the Cowboys. There's opportunity. At first, I was like, all right, this is going to be if the Giants defense don't show up, it's going to be another 40-0 type of game because they're just that much better than the Giants. That's not the case. I think Dallas doesn't match up well if the Giants decide to be a physical, great defensive team that wants to run the football. Take the ball out of Tommy DeVito's hands, put it into Saquon's hands as much as possible in different ways, and just don't be predictable. Like, yes, you're going to run the ball 45 times, right? But don't run it on predictable downs. Well, come out, pass the ball first, run the ball. Like, just mix it up.
Well, actually, I think that's a great topic because I want to talk to you about this. And I was going to talk to a couple people about this later on in the week, too. But you brought it up, so let's do it now. I think there are interesting competing strategies when it comes to having a rookie quarterback, right? One school of thought says Saquon's your best player, get it to him on first down, get into third and short, make it easy on the quarterback. The other school of thought says, well, hold on. The other team's expecting you to run it on first down. They're not expecting you to pass it on first down. When you're in third down, they think you're going to pass it. It makes it tougher on the quarterback, not easier. So does it make more sense, even though Saquon's your best player, and I think this is the point you were making, to maybe give DeVito some first down throwing opportunities and play action, because those will create easier opportunities for him because Dallas is looking to stop the run.
Yeah, and Dallas plays a lot of man-to-man.
Ton of man-to-man, second most in the league.
The Giants have to get open, and DeVito has to throw the ball well. This is all execution. That's all that's I ever really talked about consistently, week in and week out, is the lack of execution. Mm-hmm. And if Tommy DeVito can go out there and throw some first down passes for like 3 or 4, 5 yards, 6, 7 yards, and get a couple completions, like that will open up the offense, I believe. Because,
so you actually lean towards them throwing more on first down.
Yeah, I think they have to mix it up. Don't be predictable.
Got it.
But we talked about this after, I think it was after the game last week, where the Giants checked out of certain run plays.
They checked out of 2 first down runs, and those are the 2 deep throws to Hyatt because they saw the team was in cover 1, which what the Cowboys run a lot of.
So I'm all for that. I'm all for that because that makes sense. When you check out a play, is giving your offense to because you see the defense that they present to you is giving your offense
the best
more
chance to succeed.
right?
Yeah,
more chances to succeed, and I don't have a problem with that. But you got to make those throws, right? The execution has to be there. I think Tommy DeVito doesn't really know what he doesn't know. What that means is this is a huge game. Like Dallas is beating the Giants for a very long time.
But you don't think he gets that?
I don't know if he understands that. I think he's going to go out there and just be cold, and just go out there and just
Do you think when he
play
walks
ball.
into that stadium, and looks around and he sees the lunatic, the 100,000 fans in there, that he'll be like, oh,
listen, man,
this is a big deal.
He's a Jersey boy, man. He has that moxie. He was born with it, like he was molded by it, like
Mr. Jersey.
But listen, the reason I'm saying all of this is because let's not just throw it away because Daniel Jones is gone. Let's figure out how to, reap something from this season. And how you do that is playing Dallas very well, going on the road and possibly beating a team that you probably can't beat on paper. But if you have the right game plan and a couple balls bounce your way,
it goes to path of victory, right?
It happens, and Dallas is not expecting much from the Giants. You could use that to your advantage.
All right, this is perfect because the second thing I was going to ask you, and you kind of brought us there organically here, is that we've started to get a lot of calls, and I get tweets and emails about people wanting to look ahead, off-season, bigger picture stuff. Yeah. I didn't even ask you about the Cowboy game. I asked you about takeaways from the Raiders, and you immediately went into how do you beat the Dallas Cowboys. No, and I think that's great because I was going to ask you about how the player perspective on things like this is so much different than the way the fans look at it. There are still 8 games left.
Yep. Just a couple years ago, that'd be the halfway point. Just one game out of that.
As a player, you're 2-7. Deep down in your soul, you probably know that you're probably not going to make the playoffs. But just talk about how the mindset of the player is in a situation like this and how you make sure this doesn't get away from you in the final 8 games of the year.
Well, I think at this point, some players, they become a little more selfish, in their thought process. Because in the beginning of the season, it's always about, let's figure out how to perform my best to get my team to the playoffs to compete for a world championship. That's always the goal for every NFL player, coach.
It should be
everybody,
least.
Right?
Yes.
That's pretty much what it is. And then it gets to the point where it's like the Giants aren't, I don't think, mathematically out yet because they would have announced it already probably.
No, they're not mathematically
out. But to make the playoffs right now, it's probably like a 0.01% chance. It's
correct.
Probably
they're only 3 games out of the last wild card.
But then also the schedule that remains.
Relax.
You got the best team twice in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, believe it or not, the Giants actually, I believe, have the second hardest strength of schedule of any team in the league. I think only the 49ers have a tougher strength of schedule the rest of the way.
So with all that being said, as a player, hopefully the guys understand this in the locker room. Like, you can't tank for to preserve yourself or not play well or not show up for work because you won't have a job in the NFL. You have to perform at your greatest ability because, yes, the postseason seems grim, but what about your future in the NFL?
So this is when the selfishness starts to slide a little bit.
It's not always a bad thing.
I was about to say that. I say selfish and that has a bad connotation, but if it means you're still doing the right thing and playing well, that's a good thing for the team too.
Yes. Like I've been like Tampa, when I was in Tampa, the 2 years I was in Tampa, we weren't good. I think it was 4 wins and maybe 3 or 4 wins, but I was gone the second year I got traded.
You got traded mid-season,
We had one win in like the first 8 weeks. So very bleak, look very similar to this situation.
What were your quarterbacks though those 2 years?
It was Josh Johnson. I'm not Josh Johnson. Yes, why I can't remember his name.
Campbell?
Josh Johnson.
Campbell?
No.
Was it Campbell?
It was the kid from Kansas State. Why I can't remember his name.
Anyway, I'll look it up.
Big kid. He was big kid, Kansas State, big arm. Why I can't remember his name. I
Not
played
Mike
against
Glennon?
him 8 times. Mike Glennon took over for him.
Okay.
He ended up going to Minnesota that year, played on Monday Night Football.
Anyway,
wow,
continue. I'll look it up.
Well, we weren't good, but towards the season end, it's like, all right, I only got a 1-year deal with the Bucks. You know, like I got to play my best football, and hopefully we can win some games so I can have a future in the NFL. You know, so it's not that I was like selfishly trying to make plays and do other things outside of that.
That was what, 13 and 14?
That was 13, 14.
Wow, 4 wins and 2 wins, dude. That's rough. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We were bad. Well, I can't think of the name though of the quarterback.
I think it was Josh Campbell, wasn't it?
No, Josh something.
Josh McCown.
Not McCown.
Well, no, one McCown and Glennon in 2014 split the time.
13.
In 13, and I was because now I'm driving you nuts. It was Glennon, Josh Freeman.
Well, I couldn't think of his name. It came out the same year as me.
Why did I think it was
Played
Campbell?
against him like 8 times. Played with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at the end of the year, it's like, all right, like I got to do my best on the field, not just for the team, but for me, for my future. You know, so this comes when you have a team that's struggling right now, right? Like there's a scope that's looking at the team. First, it's the owners, and they're looking at everybody underneath. The general managers is looking at everybody underneath. The coaches are looking at all the players, and you have to identify: can we move on with this group of talent? Right? Can we keep these guys? And then everybody gets evaluated a little bit more and a little bit more crucially than you did if you made the playoffs the year before and won a playoff game. So this year is going to be a whole dissection of, is this roster good enough to play for the 2024 New York Football Giants? That process is going on every single day at practice and then every single week, more than it has, I think, in weeks prior, because the main focus was all about the playoffs. But now that that's becoming grim, you still got to play well. You still got to try to win games. But now it becomes who is going to be on the roster next year. So guys have to understand that process. Now, this is the business side of it. This is when you still got to think business, but also play football. This is a game at the end of the day. You know, and you go out there, it's a game that matters because it keeps score. It matters how you perform and how you produce, right? So that goes for each individual person, let alone for each individual side of the ball, defensive, offensive, special teams. And then it goes for a collective unit. The collective unit right now is not doing so well. But individually, people can play better to help the unit to play better. And that's just the thing. The Giants haven't had that consistency from any position, I feel like, from any side of the ball throughout this whole entire year. The defense had 3 or 4 games where they played 3 games where they really played really well. Other games, they did some good stuff there and there.
Second half against Arizona, for example.
But once they hit their stride in the middle of the season, it's like, all right, the Giants are leaning towards what they're going to be known for. And then the Jets game happened, and then last week happened. Now it's just like, all right, let's salvage this season. And each individual person is like, let me salvage my career. Because at the end of the day, when you have teams that are bad, you think of bad players on bad teams. That's what you think of. Because good players, usually they win games, usually, and I'm not saying it's just the outside perspective looking in, and that hurts your stock. But if they turn on the film and you're out there playing hard and you're losing by 20 and you're out there making tackles late in games, you will have a job in the NFL. So it's up to these guys to be a little bit more selfish, and maybe they wasn't doing it for the team to make the playoffs. Do it for yourself so you can play in the league further. You know what I mean?
It's amazing how self-motivation will drive people to things. All right, final topic I want to get to. Actually, before we get to this, real quick, when you rewatch the game, did you understand my point I made in the postgame about how maybe the offensive line was a little bit better than the 8 sacks they gave up?
Yeah.
Again,
I agree.
Not saying they were great.
But going against a very elite pass rusher.
Yes.
But there's
but you know what? They ran into him on a couple of those sacks. It's not like he won outright on him. You know what I mean?
I still think 73 has to get better, man. He has to.
Well, I don't think we're going to see him for a couple of weeks now, it looks like.
I know, and that sucks too, but, because
he was on crutches in the locker room.
Andrew Thomas played, I think, very, very well, as we could expect from him, but Neil, he
And I thought he was okay until the fourth quarter, and then the fourth quarter it all fell apart.
He hasn't proven to me that he can play at a high level at the right tackle position. Can he go out there? Yes. But to play at a high level against the defensive ends in the NFL on a consistent basis, pass rushers in general, not just defensive ends, he struggles against really good ones. And not even great ones, really good ones he struggles with. Against great ones, he doesn't have a chance. And the Giants have to figure out him because he's a big
part of the future
price.
Yep.
And not just, for like he's a good player at times, but I think to be that inconsistent at right tackle, he has to improve, and I know injuries has hampered him. Knee, ankle, now ankle again. But we could talk about Daniel Jones. Injuries hampered him. He played well last year, gave him a good contract. Now he's injured. Now they got to figure out what to do with Daniel Jones. The Giants are in a rough spot because a lot of key positions are hit by injuries.
Darren Waller, too. He's out.
A lot of guys on IR. Aziz Ojulari.
He might be back this week.
One of the most productive guys the Giants defense have seen since he's been in the league. 3 years now?
Yeah.
4 years? 4 years?
No, this is his third year.
But he's only played in how many games?
Right.
The Giants have to figure out what they're going to do with him moving forward. It's a lot of questions that the Giants have to ask, but that's further down the road. The question is, can they put together a game plan against a very talented team in the Dallas Cowboys, a rival game, a team that dominated the Giants for the last 10 years? Can they figure out something to be competitive in this game and keep it close to where, they almost had a win last week late in the game against Philadelphia Eagles. But Dak in close games, I don't think that's his forte. I don't think he's
the Cowboys have not been great late in close games.
Not at all.
You're right.
And they can't really slow down. They can't really stop the run. But the thing is, they can score points. And once they score points, it flips the edge to the Dallas Cowboys. And then you have their insane pass rush and one of the better pass rushers in the league. And
a secondary that gets interceptions too, right?
Yes. They have what it takes against a passing offense to slow down a team from trying to catch up, to make that lead even more, right? But once you can establish a run and be physical on them and attack their linebackers and figure out how to keep Micah Parsons guessing and keep him on skates, keeping bodies on him, then I think they're a little bit slowed down, and then their offense has to score points, which I don't think they do a good job at when they're going back and forth and you must need it situations. So there's opportunities there. Is it likely the Giants can win? No, but you know what? It hasn't been likely that the Giants have won a lot of games, have went into a lot of games, and they found a way to win one. And now they kept the Bills game close. It was like a 90% chance they was going to lose. They have opportunities, and they're going to present themselves in this game. The Giants just have to execute, and I don't want to be down on them because I don't know if there's anybody else that's going through what the Giants are going through throughout the league, where they lost as many games as they lost, the close ones, the heartbreaking ones, the embarrassing ones, and then lost their quarterback, and then also lost their second string quarterback as well. I don't know if there's anybody else in this situation. So I know it's hard right now, but you still got to play games. I'm not making no more excuses for the Giants. You got to play games. Whoever's in at right tackle has to play well, has to play better. Whoever's in that quarterback has to execute the offense to score more points than 11 points a game.
And I'm guessing Tyree Phillips at right tackle this week, but we'll see. Maybe they'll move Pugh out there. Who knows? Last thing I want to touch on with you from the defensive perspective, we haven't talked about this much on the show because we haven't gotten really any answers from the Giants on it. We got them today. Wink Martindale just spoke to the media. He was asked a lot about the Xavier McKinney quotes after the game on Sunday. If you didn't hear them, I'll just read a couple of them. Quote, I think that from a leadership standpoint, I don't think they've done a great job of letting the leaders lead and listening to the leaders and captains. It was little things. It was one of those things where you have some of your leaders, captains from a defensive standpoint trying to switch things up and just really not being heard. Basically, the indication was during the game, there were adjustments that were being, maybe the players were suggesting, but the coaches weren't implementing. Wink basically spoke today and said that, I didn't hear any of that during the game. And when I talked to him, he mentioned one type of specific coverage that they ran once during the game. And it seemed to him that it was, and he said he talked to the other veterans on defense, and he asked them, look, do you guys feel like I'm not hearing you? And they're like, nah, everything's good. And he kind of basically said that, look, I've never had a player say this about me before. I end every defensive meeting by saying, does anyone have a concern about the game plan? Do you want to make any changes? And I think he prides himself on communicating with his players in that way. So he said he was really taken aback by it and was really nervous that, oh man, am I changing? Did I do something wrong? Yeah. But talking to the rest of the defense, there didn't seem to be an issue there. And it really just seems now that everything has kind of gotten to midweek. That's one of those you're just frustrated after the game type of things, and you say stuff because you're frustrated, and there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember personally, like, I think I've said it on this show plenty of times. Me and Spags used to get into it all the time. You know, me being I felt like a vocal guy that was able to communicate and effectively communicate the temperature of the room, the defensive guys to the defensive coordinator, you know, and he listened. You know, there's a couple times we went at it, but I don't know if that's something you disclose to the media.
Well, and and needless to say, that was stressed, and Wink stressed to him and the defense why saying stuff like that out loud is not
especially
really
in New
good
York, because this is the thing about New York media, right? And when I was playing, I was like, it's not about like New York has the best media. They have the most media, and they ask, I feel like, the most difficult questions. And they put you in some rough situations.
Oh, yeah, there is no, I don't want to put them.
They're going to do it.
The question.
They're going to ask.
Here it comes.
So that's the thing about the New York media. And they get good results from that, and they get a lot of attention because of the answers that they get. Now it's like, oh, is there, division in the defense? No, I don't think so.
No, I agree.
No, I don't think
100%.
So. But there have been times where I'm in the game where you go back and forth with the defensive coordinator. Like, maybe you should do this. And he's like, no, like, we're going to do this. Like, that happens. That probably happens more than...
And it's normal.
Yeah, of course. Correct. It is.
Yes.
But I don't think it should have gotten out, and I think defensively, they are a little bit of a closer-knit, more contiguous group than the offense.
Ooh, good use of contiguous.
Yeah, I had to figure
Very nice. I like that. That was a good one.
I think that is. And look, the defense has to play better, and if he is listening to his defense, they're going to tell him things that they think could work. And if you got guys that's watching film, then they're going to probably give him some good ideas. Hopefully it's a back and forth between them, because that's what really essentially works, and that's what creates great morale between a defense and their coordinator.
Because the players feel like they're a part of it, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the Giants, let's be real about this, and I started with this, and I'm going to bring it back to this. The Giants defensively can stay in mostly any game because of the talent that they have up front and the play of Dexter Lawrence. On the back end, you have a very talented middle linebacker in Bobby Okereke. Micah McFadden, he's found himself in position to make a lot of plays. He's playing very aggressive, especially in the run game. And then on the back end, you got a corner who's young. He gets beat. He has penalties, but he ain't backing down from nobody.
He doesn't back down, but I'd like to see some more plays.
Yeah, me too. And you got Pinnock, who can make some plays around the line of scrimmage.
Big hitter, too.
Yes, he's a very rangy guy.
He had a nice hit on Devontae Adams down the sideline on that ball.
Is it Dory up?
We don't know yet.
As of right now,
He's
we don't know.
Now in concussion protocol.
The Giants have, I feel like, the personnel on defense to make it frustrating for any offense that they play against. And I look at the Jets in the same type of fashion. Maybe the Giants don't have a pair of middle linebackers like the Jets have, but they have one really good one in Micah McFadden. I think he's coming along as well. But the Jets defense, just like the Giants defense, you watched it last week with the Jets too. If the defense doesn't perform well, the team is just not going to be worth a damn. Like offensively, they can't really put out points. With no momentum on the offensive side, it's like non-existent almost. Basically it's almost a punt if the defense don't put them in a good situation.
No pressure, guys. No pressure at all. It'll be fine.
But or the defense that the offense is going against has to make penalties to extend drive.
Right.
All that comes to say, which is the thing I've been saying over time, the defense has to play well, and the offense needs to execute. They have to figure out ways to execute. They have to.
201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Hello, folks. Make sure you go and join us on Sunday, November 19th at Hair of the Dog in Manhattan to watch the Giants take on Washington. Enjoy Modelo drink specials, meet a Giants legend, and enter a raffle to win game tickets and more. Visit Giants.com/Bar Network to learn more. And also, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast, folks. A lot of good content on there. Right now, we have interviews with one of those members of the New York media, Paul Schwartz, who covered the team when you were here. And we also have my episode with Sean O'Hara on there as well. Go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. Favorite podcast platform, Giants.com, Giants app. Check it all out. And we'll have interview with Todd Haley, former longtime NFL offensive coordinator. Lance Meadow is actually probably recording that as we speak, so that should be up later this afternoon. Figure good to get his insight on what an OC does now, right? When you have an undrafted rookie quarterback and how you have to adjust how you go do things as an OC, and I think that'll be a real interesting conversation. Looking forward to listening to that one myself. 201-939-4513. Cliff is in New York. He will lead us off about the matchup against Dallas. Cliff, what's up?
Hey, guys. Listen, but I want to just say, since you were just talking about this with Leonard leaving the defense, who got most of the snaps last week in his place? Do we have a feel for that? And I'm wondering if the key to building back up to the level we were at with Leonard is going to come from A'Shawn Robinson, because he was used to playing next to Aaron Donald, and maybe that helps. Or if it was DJ Davidson that was getting the snaps. I was looking for something big from him, and I didn't see him.
Well, Cliff, I can tell you right now, the snap count for the other defensive linemen last Sunday, let's see. So Dexter Lawrence plays 70% of the snaps, which is where I would expect him to be at for most of the year. Nacho had 58% of the snaps, and A'Shawn Robinson had 50% of the snaps. So those guys basically combined together to take Leonard Williams snaps in that game, give or take.
Yeah, that's why you brought those guys in.
Correct. And I think on third down, Jihad Ward got some of those, three technique. Jihad Ward's up at 72% of the snaps. That's a little high for him.
Yeah.
So he got a lot of, I think, some of those pass rushing snaps as well.
Well, is there any hope for those guys raising the level of the DL to where it was without Leonard?
Look, I don't think we should take too much, Cliff, out of the issues stopping the run last week against Las Vegas. It was concerning. I didn't like it, but I want to see that continue for a couple more games, or at least maybe one more game, because I don't think Dallas is that good of a rushing team before I get concerned about the rushing part of the defense, at least.
Yeah, I think, look, I think you lose somebody like Leonard Williams, it's not just the play on the field, it's also like the contribution that he has off the field.
Yeah, talk about him.
He's a huge leader for them. He's the most experienced guy on the defense in general. Is he on the team besides Gano? Besides Pugh and Gano, he has to be up there, meaning like the second, third oldest on the whole team before he left. On the whole defense, for sure.
I think you are right.
So he has when he walks in the room, he garners that respect from not only just the players but the coaches as well.
A'Shawn? Is he a little bit younger than Leo? Maybe.
Yeah,
A'Shawn
I know
Robinson?
I don't think he's as old as Leonard. But when you lose a guy like that, it affects you in multiple different ways, and there's nobody that's going to really replace him for the stuff he does off the field. But you have a whole bunch of guys who I think have promise and can give some type of impact to him not being there. But I think ultimately it comes from this defensive line, and the defensive play in general has to be initiated from Dexter Lawrence's dominance. Because if he just plays regular or not on a statistical stat sheet.
I mean, he was playing like the defensive player of the year for a few weeks.
Right. If he doesn't play like that, I don't think the Giants collectively can slow down a Dallas Cowboys offense. High-powered, very explosive offense, can run the ball explosively at times, but can get the ball downfield to literally 5 explosive players every single time. Good tight end, great speed on the outside.
CeeDee Lamb's got over 150 straight games, man.
Ferguson's good too. They got talent all over. Mm-hmm. And you can't really slow them down if you don't have an interior attack. And Dexter Lawrence leads that. And if you have an interior attack, you can cause frustration and confusion against the most talented teams, as we've seen happen against the Commanders and also the second half versus the Cardinals and also the Bills, the whole game against the Bills. Can
Dexter do that without Leo next to him?
Yeah, I think he can.
Yes, because he's always getting double-teamed anyway. And then the times he gets single-teamed, like, bro, he destroys anybody in front of them.
I thought the Raiders did a much better job of getting 2 on him last week than the Jets and Commanders did the 2 weeks prior.
Yeah, but the guys have to win those one-on-one battles. If Dexter's getting double-teamed most of the game, which he's going to get double-teamed, then it presents opportunities for other guys. And I see them making those plays, but maybe they're not used to being in that position. And I talked about this before. When I played with Damon Snacks Harrison, he's very dominant, but he did things differently than most defensive tackles. He did things that only he could do. When you're playing linebacker, you're playing next to a guy like that, it takes you a while to adjust to that. And I think Micah McFadden has reaped the benefits of a defensive line that's very disruptive because he can shoot gaps. You don't have to wait on anything. He's shooting gaps. And I think he learned as the season went on how to play with somebody like Dexter Lawrence. And that's just, it takes a little bit of time. But a second game with this group, I think it'd be beneficial for them against a very familiar opponent, the Dallas Cowboys.
And Cliff, you had a question about Parsons before we say goodbye?
Yeah. We going into last week's game, Dable said in his presser, we know we have to watch out for Max Crosby. Well, it didn't help. He really, I think, didn't get enough credit for what he did to us. And I just wonder if there's any comparison to looking ahead to Parsons when we also have to worry about their guy Lawrence.
Appreciate the call, Cliff. Good stuff. Look, I think Parsons is more difficult just because he lines up in a lot more spots. Like, he's left and right, he's almost even now, but he stands up over guards and centers. They use him to initiate. Yeah, as a stand-up guy, it's kind of almost a stand-up,
he drops too.
Like a Joker rusher. And they'll use him in those spots, JC, on their stunts and twists. And he will just fire through some of these open spaces. Or he'll even be the point man on it. He'll go first, draw the defense, and then like the tackle will loop around or something like that. So identifying where he is and understanding from film study how they plan to use him when he's in those different spots, I think is going to be essential.
Yeah, the game plan has to be where's number 11 at on offense at every single time, and then making sure you at least put two hats on him. You need to.
Is that the first thing DeVito looks for when he breaks the huddle?
But he has to. They have to, at least the offensive line do. Whoever's calling out protections, they have to figure out where number 11 at, because everything that the Dallas Cowboys do is off of number 11. I don't know how much percent of the snaps he played. Can you check that?
I can check that, sure. Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure it's up there. It's probably over 80%. I feel like he's always in the game. He when people give him the comparisons, I remember the first game, after I was on the elevator upstairs, after we did the pregame, I was on the elevator upstairs, and one of the fans was like, man, Parsons, and, he's like Lawrence Taylor. And I was like, all right, relax with this Lawrence Taylor comparison. I remember after the game, I was going down the elevator, and I was like, well, I can see where people can make that comparison. The guy is a great ball player. I mean, he has to have a career to compare to a Lawrence Taylor or any of the elite.
He's at 81% of the defensive snaps.
So I was right, a little over 80.
And keep in mind, by the way, they've played in probably 3 games that were absolute blowouts. So he probably got whole quarters off. So 90, it's probably more realistically higher than that.
And the Giants have to do a good job, and everything comes off of that. Adikizua is playing very well, very high level. He's playing at a very high level.
Well, actually, you have an interview with him on the pregame show.
Okay, good. Yeah. Look, his brother used to play here too.
I know. I'm going to ask him about Owa.
And collectively, this defensive line can wreak havoc, especially against the pass game. But I feel like because Michael Parsons is not a big guy, he's very explosive. He's very athletic. He can, run the corner very well. He can bend very well. But, when you run at him, he doesn't look great.
I mean, he's 250 pounds.
He doesn't look like he's this world stopper. When you're backing up, meaning like the pass drop, he looks absolutely unblockable.
You don't want that dude chasing you.
Not for most of the game.
Correct.
And you got to scheme up whenever you pass. But when you run right at him.
Agreed.
Run right at him against these safeties playing linebackers. Run downhill. Run trap games. Do things that's in the interior and won't allow the speed of the Dallas Cowboys defense to flourish.
We saw the 49ers do that against them,
That's exactly what they did. They hit it downhill, and they got the ball out of Purdy hands very fast, too. And look, I'm not comparing our undrafted guy to the Mr. Irrelevant in Brock Purdy. But if you have a good enough game plan against this Cowboys team, they are good. They are athletic. They are fast. But you can expose this team with the right play calls, because they're really not that good against the run. And when the field gets smaller when they're on offense, they don't really score points. And that the Giants can take advantage of that. They can create opportunities. The defense can put themselves in the short fields, and it could be a field goal game if the defense comes to play for the New York Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to get this number real quick because you've brought it a couple of times. I want to make sure I have it right before I give it to the fans. But Dallas this year in the red zone, they are the 4th worst team, scoring touchdowns on just 44% of their appearances.
So if this becomes a field goal game,
correct,
it can be competitive. Big play here. Giants do a good job on protecting the football. This team can be beat. They're a little bit different than I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles, who plays very good situational football, can run the football, has great receivers on the outside. Their defense is different too, but I think there's a lot of opportunity that lies in going against the Dallas Cowboys. And having the right game plan is everything. And in executing that game plan, that's what the Giants haven't really done, I feel like, this year. But if they can do that, they can put themselves in position to be, I feel like, a team that's going to be around, of course, in January in the playoffs, but possibly make a run to that NFC Championship. The Dallas Cowboys are that good, and the Giants have an opportunity to play them this weekend, and Tommy DeVito could get his first start and first win against the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it, bro. I'm all for Tommy DeVito, baby.
201-939-4513. Jersey all day for Casillas. Let's go to Scott in New Mexico. He's up next. Hey, Scott.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
What's up?
What's up, Scott?
Jonathan, you made some excellent points, but I have to disagree. I think the problem
Good points, but you're wrong.
I don't think he's wrong.
I'm kidding,
disagree.
Scott. It's fine.
I think the problems are more systemic with the Giants than everyone's painting the picture that we can correct things. And the reason I say that, if you just look at Daniel Jones himself, he ranks 28th before he got hurt. He had a 37.3% QBR rating, only threw 2 touchdowns. He was sacked on 14.4 of his dropbacks. That's the highest in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you look at Madeline Burke made a very interesting comment on her broadcast with Howard Cross. In 86 games, Andrew Luck, who obviously retired, was sacked 174 times. In 60 games, Daniel Jones has been sacked 179 times. And basically the Giants have killed his career. And I personally don't like that. But what disturbs me even more when you look at, they've had now 3 coaches, 3 different regimes. They've scored only 10 touchdowns this year so far. That's ridiculous. And if you go back past the 2016 season and you look at their records, I think you know them. So, but in 2017, 3-13, 2018, 5-11.
Yeah, we know him, Scott. We know him.
Okay.
We know him.
So you know that this is egregious as a Giant fan. I've been a Giant fan for 60 years. My first game was watching the Giant championship game in Chicago in Wrigley Field. The Giants lost in that game. But I've been a Giant fan all along, and I've lost faith not only in how the team's being put together, but also in the coaching of Brian Daboll. And I didn't think after last year I would feel that way.
Wait, Scott. So hold on. What you said the problem's systemic. I want to go back to your original point.
Okay.
What's the systemic problem?
They can't put an offensive line together. That's one specific. And I agree with Jonathan. They have some good players.
Okay, Scott. Well, first of all, this regime's been here for a season and a half. And the first half of their second year, they were missing their starting left tackle, their starting center, and their right tackle for multiple games, and one of their starting guards for multiple games. So I don't care how you build your team. We did this, like against the Bills, going into that game. Of the 9 offensive linemen on the active roster to start the year, 3 of them were healthy for the Bills game. I don't care how you build a roster. You cannot survive that. It is impossible. Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay.
And one of the other things that disturbs me, I mean, Saquon Barkley's a great back, but did you guys realize he's only scored 30 rushing touchdowns in 6 years? And granted, he was hurt. By comparison, Nick Chubb, because they came in the same year, has 48 rushing touchdowns.
Oh, look, Scott, no one's going to argue. The Giants can't score points. Mm-hmm. It's been a constant problem for years. I'm going to give you a stat.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm trying to say.
Only 4 teams since 2000 has averaged less than 12 points per game.
Correct.
4. The Browns in 2000, the Raiders in 2006, the 2009 Rams, and the 2000 Bengals. So no team since 2009 has averaged fewer than 12 points. That's what the Giants are on pace for. So, Scott, 1,000%, no argument. You got to score points to win games, and we've been talking about that for years.
But we know, and going back to Jonathan's reference on good players, and we do have some. Dexter Lawrence, the 2 linebackers are playing lights out. Andrew Thomas, when he's healthy, is a great offensive tackle. But both of you know that it takes 11 players on offense and 11 players on defense.
Of course.
In order to win football games. You can't just have 1 or 2 players being good. So the key, and I'll leave it at this question. In fact, yesterday, I think you were on with Paul, and Paul accidentally mentioned Danny DeVito instead of Tommy DeVito.
He did.
And I said, I happen to know Danny DeVito.
Oh,
and I said, he'd be a great quarterback, actually, because no one would find him.
Of course, he would have been able to throw the ball over the line.
If they did, they tackle him in the head, and they would call penalties left and right. So he's a great guy, by the way. But in any event, my question to you guys is, knowing the records and how far they go back and the problems the Giants have, this is not a one quick fix. So in your estimation, I know they're already scouting new quarterbacks because Joe Schoen was at the game at USC in Washington. So they're looking at Penix and Caleb Williams already. This is before the Sunday game.
And Scott, by the way, for the record, there's about 8 good prospects on Washington that aren't quarterbacks, just FYI.
Absolutely. Shador Sanders is one of my favorites and so forth. So there's a lot of guys that's going to be out. It's a quarterback-rich class. But in your estimation, to fix the problems, which I think, again, are systemic, and it requires so much to be able to get a team to really play good football, what do you think the Giants, or how long do you think this is going to take before I can say, hey, I'm proud of looking at this team and saying, yes, they can play football? And I don't mean this in a demeaning way.
No, Scott, I get you.
I'm just trying to get some evidence of what they're going to do, because as I said, some of the decisions Brian Daboll has made don't make any sense to me. And it started, and I'll end on this point, in the game, in the 40-0 rout, he leaves Daniel Jones in the game for potential injury, and his query, or when one of the reporters queried him after the game, he said he just wanted to get something started, or words to that effect. And I'm thinking to myself, you just paid this guy $160 million. You're willing to risk injury in a game that doesn't mean anything. And getting back to both of your points, each game is its own entity.
We got to wrap this up, man.
Okay, and I'm going to get off the line now. So, but those are the kinds of things that disturb me, and I'll let you address it from there.
Okay, I will leave this to Jonathan. I'll just say this.
Take all that.
Yeah, you can take all that. You about 15 seconds to figure out what you're going to say. Because when Joe Schoen got here, I tried to be very clear with people that this was a multi-year process.
Yeah.
This was not going to be a quick fix.
The Giants overachieved in their first year.
Then last year happened, right? And I think everyone just assumed, and Pearson, I think, got to the point where he was going to bop me over the head. How many times, Pearson, did I said in the offseason that progress and improvement does not happen in a straight line?
A lot.
A lot. And there's a reason I said that multiple times in the offseason to the point where it drove people bananas. It's because a lot of things went right last year, especially in close games. Lance Meadow drove people nuts with the one-score game statistics.
Yeah.
All right? It is what it is. Now, did anyone expect it to turn into this? No. Of course, did anyone expect for the Giants to lose Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, John Michael Schmitz,
Darren
Waller, and a bunch of other guys to injury over the first 8 games of the year? No, we didn't. So it's going to take a couple of years here. And now, obviously, the injury to Daniel Jones makes that situation, which 6 months ago, that's not murky.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we'll see what happens as we move forward. We'll figure it out. But that injury is a serious injury. So we'll have to see what happens. So this is going to become a contender, Scott, 2-3 years?
Yeah. To
get back to the playoffs? It's the NFL. They could have $60 million of cap space. You could be back in the playoffs next year. Like, that's possible, but maybe not if things don't go right.
And the Giants were overachievers last year. No one expected the Giants to, I think, make the playoffs, let alone win a playoff game. I think making the playoffs was like, wow, like the Giants did very well this year with what they had. The questions at receiver, you bring in Hodgins. Hodgins plays well for the second half of the season. No real star at tight end. Bellinger was there where he was hurt with the eye. And inconsistent play among the offensive line. Defensively, not the most dominant defense, but very good in the red zone, doing a lot of things with the blitz.
They were great situationally last year on both sides,
100%,
offense and defense.
Especially in the red zone for both sides of the ball.
And third down.
And not turning the ball over on offense was really key. And then your main guy staying healthy almost the entire season.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas played every game last year.
And McKinney missed with the hand. But besides that,
Dexter Lawrence
mixed
played
a
every game
here, I think maybe, but like everybody was relatively healthy besides Adore.
and Bellinger had the eye too.
Yeah. So the Giants,
but their best players were on the field.
That's the point I was gonna make. And their best players performed because they weren't out. You know, like if Saquon's not out, he's not Saquon Barkley. He's just a guy that plays for the Giants that's on whatever. He's sitting down. But when he's on the field, he's Saquon Barkley. Same with Daniel Jones, same with Andrew Thomas.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, he forced the Giants to pay him because he played so well last year. And you can never take that from him. Never, ever, 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 ever. Because
he
at the end of the
earned
day,
that, right.
At the end of the day, it's all about timing when it comes to getting paid. If you can ball out the year of your contract year, mind you, no one believed in him. Not even the GM, not the head coach, not none of us. We all thought it was a good thing that they didn't do his 5th year. We all thought that. It was a smart thing for them to do. Then he showed up, played outstanding football last year. Didn't turn the ball over. His stats wasn't crazy, but he did something that other quarterbacks didn't do. He ran the ball efficiently. He threw the ball efficiently. He protected the ball, scored touchdowns, gave it to his best player in Saquon Barkley, and won a playoff game. That's what Daniel Jones did. The Giants overachieved in 2022. That's a fact. Right? This year, reality hit early with that 40-0 loss against Dallas. Okay, cool. We're a little bit lower than them, right? But I think why everybody's so frustrated is because there hasn't been a lot of competitive games. It hasn't been a lot of what you would call functionality among offense and defense, and they just haven't played complementary football this year. That's why everybody's so flustered. But at the end of the day, the Giants overachieved last year. This year, I think expectations was lowered after week 1, and then the injuries hit. When injuries hit to your best players, there's no way you can perform well. Like, there's no way. There's no way the Giants roster, they don't have, like, even Tyrod. Tyrod came in.
And then he
showed up, and then now he's out. You know,
as a player, was that also your experience when your best players had to leave the field? Things just tended to go sideways?
Yeah, it is. You know, like, think about it, right? In the NFL in general, right? Peyton Manning, he was one of the best players, if not the best player, every single year he was healthy at quarterback, right? So, of course, until the end, that's a whole different story. This is what proved to me that he was the best player in the league. He got hurt. He missed a whole year. Remember the Colts record that year?
1-15.
That proved to me he was the best player in the league the year he didn't play. Because you telling me you take him away from the Colts, all of a sudden they win one game? This was a perennial 11-12 win team.
One of my favorite quotes of all time was from his offensive coordinator, Tom Moore. And I think it was the year that Peyton got hurt. And he was asked, well, do you guys ever do anything in practice if Peyton's to prepare if Peyton's not there? And he goes, I'm going to use less colorful language than he used. Well, if Peyton's not there, we're
that's it.
And we don't practice being.
Yeah. But that's it though. So the Giants are, because of the injuries, especially at the quarterback, left tackle. Now they're trying to figure this out, and it's going to take a little while this year to get this season going.
Last year, everyone was finally coming back, JC.
Yep.
And then the rug just got pulled.
Yep. So the Giants have to do well in the draft, of course. They have to draft well. The Giants I feel like in the past, have drafted well. They have to figure out what the Giants are going to do with Daniel Jones. Because it's a year injury. When he comes back next year, he may not be healthy for training camp.
If it's a 9-month recovery, he said he's going to wait for the swelling to go down. Let's say he has surgery, just to make it easy for us. Let's say he has it on December 1st, right? Mm-hmm. 9 months would be August 1st, in theory.
Right. This is the start of training camp. That's basically him to start getting back into football.
Right. Kyler Murray had ACL surgery on January 3rd, and he's basically making his way back on November 1st. So do the math. That's about 2 months. 2 months. Running quarterback, so you're looking at about 10 months for him, give or take.
Yep, and he's just about to play his first game.
He's going to play this weekend,
mm-hmm. Right?
So you're looking at about 10 months.
10 months.
For DJ, if he gets a December 1st surgery, then you're looking at, if he had surgery on January 3rd, came back November 1st, and that would be an October 1st return date.
Which is
theory.
At least IR to start the season.
Or PUP, one or the other, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
To start the season.
Or maybe he'll be quicker. According to what Brian Dable said, there's no other damage in there. So maybe his recovery will be a little bit faster. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we've only gone to a couple calls here, but I think we've had some good conversation off of what the callers have had to say. So let's squeeze in a few more before we say goodbye. Let's go to Ray in West Windsor, who's been very patient today. Ray, what's going on?
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Ray. What's up?
Very long-time Giants fan, and I want to just commend you and your cohorts on consistently running a thoughtful, balanced, and informative program in the dregs of the season that's been going on.
Thank you.
I had a question for you, which is sort of disguised as a suggestion, or maybe it's the other way around.
Okay.
But given the fact that we're going into Dallas with an experienced QB3, an offensive line that hasn't shown a tremendous amount in the way of pass protection and real reliance on the running game, why don't the Giants install, or should the Giants install, the Wildcat for not just a trick play or plays like I think they did a couple of times last year, but just put it in for a whole half or at least a sustained series of possessions. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
JC, your thoughts?
I don't mind them running, sprinkling in a little bit of Wildcat, but I don't think you could use that as like your form. Like that's your foundation is the Wildcat. I don't think that's going to have success here in the NFL. And I don't think with the offensive line, I feel like with how inconsistent they've been, like the offensive line is not going to lean on that defense the whole game.
Maybe like 5 to 10 plays. I think that would
definitely
be the most
I think that's a good play to mix in. But just know they're going to put all 11 guys in the box. They're going to put every single person in the box.
Ooh, how about a little handoff and then throw it to DeVito?
Hey, look, I'm all for everything that keeps this defense off balance.
Do you think we get some trick plays in this game?
I think you have to throw some trick plays.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think a little flea flicker, maybe a little halfback option.
Like, this is a game where you go in and you do everything.
You
why not?
You empty the treasure chest.
Why
maybe
not? Fake a punt,
surprise onside kick.
I'm saying yes, man. Because look,
Casillas wants to play Madden when he was like, he's like, this is me at Madden in 2008, man. We're rolling now, baby.
Look, no one gives you a chance to win this game. You know, the only people that really thinks that they can win, if they do believe, is in that locker room over there.
And in the coaching offices.
You know,
upstairs.
that's it. Mm-hmm. You know, and if you guys can devise a game plan to steal a couple possessions, I say this every week, to steal a couple possessions from Dak and this offense and what they're doing. Because offensively, I think they're pretty good over there. They can run the ball. They got a very explosive running back. All of their skill positions, even the tight end, is very skilled. Very skilled. And they can do great things. And Dak is playing very well. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But he plays somewhere most of the time around a little higher than average.
No, it's strange. Like he'll look like the best quarterback in the league one week, and the next week he'll look like he's the bottom 10 quarterback in the league. It's very odd.
So if you can catch him off guard, do some things, get a sack on him early, maybe score an early touchdown, take a kick to the crib, block a kick, like steal a possession, steal points, get on the scoreboard early, and get it into a physical run defensive game. That easily the Giants can win of how they played 2 weeks ago. They can win that game. If they allow them not to be a passing team and the Giants don't become a passing team, that's the recipe to win against Dallas. I think that's the only way. But that's a strong chance that you give yourself against a very talented team. That's what I think.
Wrap things up with Coach Marvin from Delaware. Coach Marvin, what's up?
Hold on, John. How you doing, John?
Standing by, Coach
Jonathan.
Marvin. What do you got?
I'm sorry. Took so long. I was watching Eli on NFL Network talking about the team.
What do you say, Coach?
We all looked up at the TV. Me, you.
Well,
we have it here in the office, but the volume's obviously down, so I didn't know what he was saying.
It was pretty much the same thing that Jonathan's talking about going into this game and going into the season. That they got to try to just try to compete and try to get some consistency in competing, and that's how they're going to have to play the rest of this season. And they're going to have to try to compete. I agree with Jonathan. This is a beast to go into a game. As a coach, I'm kind of in my head. If I'm sitting alone, I'm kind of like, oh my God, this is not going to be pretty. But in front of the team, I have to give us a chance. And the only chance they're going to have is they're going to have to run at Dallas, and they're going to have to throw. The Wildcat stuff, I wouldn't put in Wildcat. Teams already adjusted to the Wildcat. That's kind of like died out a little bit because the defensive coordinators, everybody know their assignments on it. When the Wildcat came out, I think Miami was the first one to do it against New England.
Yeah, that was with
Nobody knew the
Ronnie Brown and
Yep.
who was the second running back on that
Ricky
team?
Williams.
Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown. Thank you. There we go.
Yeah, and nobody knew the assignments. And if you remember that film, they ran all over him. They didn't know who had the ball.
It provides you an extra blocker. You know, like usually you take the quarterback out.
It's 11 on 11.
It's 11 on 11. Yep. No free hitters for the defense at all.
That's the only thing it does. But it's not going to free up enough yards to do anything. Now, you want to sprinkle it in 10 times. There's a lot of times on it. It depends on how the game is flowing.
Sure.
If I can get something going inside the tackles and something like that I can keep the chains moving, then you can sprinkle in a trick play. Trick plays, you just can't come out just throwing those things. You have to rock them to sleep.
No, of course.
Get their eyes looking one way and get their feet standing still.
And, Coach, again, this is why, to JC's point, it's so essential. And the Cowboys are one of the best first possession teams in the league, by the way. They score in their first possession all the time. The defense has to play well early in this game. Because if you get behind big, all these things we're talking about ain't going to mean a hill of you-know-what.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You're right, and Jonathan, and that's why I was going with Jonathan on that is because we always had this 3 P's that we would talk about: prepare, practice, perform. Those are the 3 P's you're going to have in this game. And what we would do is we already played them. So I'm talking to them. I said they already beat us down. So, but that doesn't mean they can keep beating us down. You're going to have to figure out to do something about it. So you're going to have to prepare that team, practice that team, and then let them go out and perform. And so when I say perform, I need my A performers to give me A performance for 60 minutes this weekend. And
Can I ask you one question, Coach, real quick?
Yeah.
What is it like when you had to go in front of one of your teams and just flat out lie to them about how they have a really good chance to win the game? That's
the thing. You don't lie to them, though.
Do you walk out of the room and you're like, I think I really sold that one, didn't I?
No, see, Marvin, let me talk for 1 second. Let you talk. Give me 1 second. Yeah. You don't lie to them. You don't do that. But you give them hope because there's always a chance. You have to. Right. There's a look. Okay. This big.
No, it's a good answer. It's a good answer.
And that means they have to play a perfect game to do that.
Okay.
But you sell them on that.
So you have to find this.
And you tell them the truth. No one expects you to win. No one expects you to win, guys.
So you have to find the slimmest slither and make them believe that they can fit into that sliver.
It's the truth.
No, and that's fair. I buy it. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
The truth is you can't just make up stuff. You got to do what you do best. Yep. You figure out what you do best, where my A performers are, and if I'm on the offense, I got to get them the ball.
Okay,
and give us a chance. So if you lie to them, that's where you lose your team because they don't believe anything you say. If you say you're going to get your butt kicked, you tell them. Because when it happened, you go back in the locker room and say, didn't I tell you that's what was going to happen?
Fair enough. No, that's a good answer. Good answer, Coach.
But the good side of that is you're playing a team that knew they beat you down. So you got to hope that they take you for granted.
Yep.
You got to hope they take you so for granted they start making penalties. Now, the Cowboys ain't the most smartest situational team.
That's
their
true.
Coaching is not as situational as people think they are.
That's true.
If you look at their games, they make the dumbest mistakes.
Yep.
They went on a 2-point conversion. He steps out of bounds.
That was amazing. That
is not a coincidence. I don't want to hear he was getting chased. That is not a coincidence.
It was a bad football play. You're 100% right.
They do bad plays all the time. Now, what they're doing now, they're finding C.D. Lamb, and they're moving him around.
Yep.
We're going to have to find him. We got to hope that they make mistakes and keep us alive, because it's gonna be difficult. The quarterback play is gonna be tough and all that. And my last statement for the person that was saying he's frustrated with the Giants, he's watched them for 60 years, and I feel his pain, but that's all it is. It's just a feeling. He ain't going nowhere. He's a Giant fan, and he's talking about they can't do certain things. You look at every NFL team. None of them have won 50 Super Bowls. All of them have been franchises for a short period, and they die down until they can build themselves up. And most of them haven't built themselves up. Only a few of them. It's only a handful of them that's playing at that level. The Giants, the only one that won a championship the last 4 decades. the Cowboys haven't won almost 30 years.
30 years almost, yeah. You're right. Thank you,
Right?
Coach.
The Kansas City Chiefs, they didn't win until Mahomes come. They didn't win until the 60s.
Yeah, 71 they won last, I think, the Chiefs, right?
No,
it was 70 or 71?
No. I think it was
60,
like 68.
68?
I think
Was it 68?
68?
You might be right.
68 to 67, somewhere in there. So I just tell the guy, hang in there. It's tough. And Dabo, I always say, my last statement is, coaches, we can't make everybody happy. We can't. Winning or losing, we can't make everybody happy. So we just have to deal with it.
Thank you, Coach.
Take care, guys.
Hey, you too. Appreciate the call, man. That was a great call.
Yeah, I always like him when he calls. Hope he calls more when I'm on. Call on Thursdays when I'm on, Marv. We could talk.
Nah, great call. And I thought his point about how you address the team and make them believe was a good one. Because I look, the reason I use the word lie is because he said, you say stuff to the team if you don't really believe it. That's where I kind of got the lie question from. Yeah. But I think the way you guys put it is perfect. And I think that is how you have to really approach it.
As a player, if the coach says, like, we have a good chance to win this game, I'm going to be like, all right, come on. What are you talking about?
I'm out, bro.
But there's a way you can sell the slither of hope that you have. Because think about this, right?
It was 69, by the way. Chiefs won in 69. He was right.
And think about this, right? If Dexter Lawrence has 15 pressures against the Cowboys on Sunday, and Saquon Barkley runs for over 100 yards, wouldn't you think the Giants could win that game?
Sure.
No matter who they're playing against?
Yeah.
And
agreed.
Do you not see Dexter Lawrence being dominant against the Dallas Cowboys?
He certainly can be.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have players. Like the reason why the Giants have had success the last 2 years on defense, because the guy that's standing in front of the player that's giving the quarterback the ball is very dominant and destructive. And he causes havoc right in front of the quarterback's face. And if you got a guy like that, which the Giants do, and he can play at a high level, it will give your whole team success. Because he's flustering the most valuable player on the other team every single play.
JC, good stuff, my man.
All right, man.
Always good to talk to you. Go download Giants TV, the Giants streaming app. It's for free on all your TV streaming services and Giants.com/tickets. Go check it out if you want to go to a Giants game. For Jonathan Casillas, I'm John Schmeelk. You can hear the two of us on our pregame show on WFAN on Sunday at 2:25. I think we'll both be in the city for that one, correct? Yep. So we will be at WFAN in the city. We'll have some fun calling the pre and post in that game and doing halftime as well. Tomorrow, Paul and Lance have you on Big Blue Kickoff Live. They'll give you their big Cowboys preview. And then, of course, Big Blue Kickoff Live will be on FAN special Saturday edition at 9 a.m. on Saturday with Sean Morash and myself. So check that out, too. And check out all other podcasts, including the Giants Hangout. Casillas is part of that, too. He's with Brandon London and Madeline Burke. We're recording that at around 3 o'clock today. And then Pearson will rush to get that up as quickly as possible as he gets 3 podcasts put on his lap at the same time, which is what we like to do to make his life as difficult as possible. For Jonathan Casillas, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for joining us on Big Blue Kickoff Live. We'll see you tomorrow.